Hey everybody, Lewi MasterClass. Today we are going to be looking at the most basic Logi-man task, the act of gathering scrap, turning it into B-mats, E-mats, and getting it to the seaport. The veterans also call this scrooping. So if you ever are looking for something to do in-game other than frontline stuff, this would be the thing to do. So we need a couple buildings to get things done today. We're going to be looking for the garage to make our flatbed, and then the construction yard to make our resource container. We're going to have to stop at the refinery before to pick up some B mats to make that resource container. And then once we have the flatbed and the resource container, we can go to a salvage field. This one must have just spawned. It's got a lot of nodes on it. We will collect our scrap and we will bring it back to the refinery to turn it into the B mats and the E mats. And then once we've done that a couple times, we're going to take the B mats from the B mats and the E mats from the refinery and put them in the regiment stockpile at a seaport. So we're here at the garage. I already have the refined materials to make a flatbed. So you have to be standing off of the kind of pathway there, or it'll say it's obstructed. So the flatbed is going to be constructed with 30 refined materials. At the beginning of a war, there's a line of men that will form out and alongside the building. So when you join at the beginning of the war and you're trying to make a vehicle, make sure you get in line and hug the wall, because people drive around here crazy at the beginning of the war and they'll run you over. Always make sure you lock your vehicles with L. So we're going to want to pick up a couple B mats. I think it's 25. We'll just take a stack, and we also need some fuel for the truck. So we pulled our B mats and our fuel. Fuel's in the third slot. Press 3 to get it out, and then you can fuel your vehicle. If you're trying to fuel a vehicle from a container, you open up the vehicle menu and all you have to do is press this button and it will start fueling from any nearby source. To change fuel, you can press the change fuel and it'll prompt you if you want to do so, and then it'll change it to petro and it'll put the diesel in your inventory and leave you with an empty petro truck. So we have our materials. The truck's fueled up. Come down to the construction yard. Somebody already built a resource container or a shipping container. We don't need that right now. So we arrived at the field. I'm going to use the train to pick up what's out of the harvesters here. So to do that, just get in the train. You can shift E to select which harvester. Empty. One's empty. This one's got 350, so they have no petro in them because it's only the little pre-patch war, so they're not, bringing it over too often. I put my resource container close enough to the train head so that I'd be able to access it, so I can put all that in there. And then it's scrooping. And I gotta find a sledgehammer because these guys will give me shit if I'm scrooping without a sledgehammer. There's a couple different ways to scroop, of course. I already showed you how to use the train. Right now I'm using, manual labor with either a small hammer or the sledgehammer. I showed Corporal that one was unlocked, so he got in the harvester vehicle, and just by holding left mouse button you can collect scrap that way, and then you can drive the vehicle over to your container and access the container, similar to how we did with the train to put it in there. So I don't know what the hell Corporal's doing. I'm going to use this truck. It's also a good thing that I changed the color of my container, because when you get here, you're going to see both containers, so I know which one's mine. I don't want the copper, so I'm going to shift click that into the inventory and right click submit all to stockpile, the resource container, and it's going to put it all in there. So you cannot package up the container if there's anything in this inventory. So I'm just going to take that back for now, and we'll get rid of it later. All right, so my container is full. We're going to package it up. We can do that from the vehicle. We'll leave the truck for turbo. Fill it up. That's where, so fueling, opened up the menu to the scrap hauler and just clicked refuel, and there was fuel, diesel, or whatever this is taking. Yeah, diesel in that container, and I filled it up. So I bring. All right, so I had some comms issues there on the last trip to the refinery. So I got my comms up this time, and I'll be able to show you what I typically do here at the refinery. So we have the scrap in our container. Again, last time I said for using the crane, you hop in the crane or any of the cranes. There's a couple of different types. While holding right mouse button, will move the crane, and then when you get to an interactable, left mouse button will engage. While holding right mouse button, you want to hit the left mouse button to engage. So we're in the refinery. Typically what I do is I put 10, if you left mouse button, it'll put 100 material in the queue. So I typically put 1,000 into EMATs because that gets that going. You can have this all the way up to 2 days if the stack is full. And then with shift left mouse button, you can put the entire container, all that can be, put in here, because there's a limit. You can only put like 2,005 or 25,000 in there or something. So we have 2 trips in there. I'm going to do this 6 times, and by I think 6 or 7, the 6th time this will be full, and this will have a good like 2-hour queue, and then I ship all the BMATs that were made to the seaport, and about 90% of my Logi time is spent doing this. So we're going to do the 6 trips, and then I'll show you taking it over to the Reggie Seaport. All right, I can't make you guys watch me do it all 6 times or what 7, how many ever it'll take. I mean, you can go all day to get your EMATs cooking. So again, 10 I usually do into there to keep that going, uh, and the rest in the BMATs. Some etiquette in town too. Try to keep your flatbeds, off the beaten path while you're loading and unloading, because there's going to be a lot of traffic in here during a normal war. And when you come up to the refinery with the smaller trucks, like the dune transport or the load lugger, make sure you come like right in on the building, straight in, because you can only access the building from like right here. Your front of your vehicle has to be like right here to all the way over like onto the other edge. You can't access it from any other sides of the building. So people have to drive in here nice and neat so that everybody can use it. The same thing goes for the factories here. Like you can only access the factory if your front of your vehicle is like right on the edges and anywhere in between. So make sure the factories aren't as busy because there's two of them. There's another one down the other side of the garage. But just keep that in mind because the towns will get really busy and people don't want to waste their time, having to drive around or wait for you to, move your vehicle. So we'll say that my BMATs are full and I can't put any more into cooking them. So I'll have to switch containers because this container cannot take the created BMATs to the refinery. So we'll drop this container off in a regiment stockpile for the next Logi-man to use. Again, seaport etiquette, flatbeds usually pull right in on the cranes because you can't access the seaport from this position. So then 3 small vehicles can fit in here to access the seaport. Also, a vehicle and a flatbed, if you get your nose right up on the edge, can access the seaport from both sides of the outside of the crane there. Please don't ever park your vehicles on the pads because people will be trying to pull things out. We'll have transport boats on either side and the 27th and FMAT in here trying to load boats up. It's a clusterfuck. So we use a crane. We're going to be putting our resource container in our regiment stockpile, and then we're going to go build a shipping container to ship our BMATs and EMATs over here. So when you get into the seaport, it'll almost always default to public unless you've recently used it in certain capacities. So I've already created an MPF regiment. If you need to access a regiment in the Discord, there's a channel stockpile codes. You access the seaport or the depot that you're trying to use, and you can punch in the code here, and then it'll automatically show up on your list. These are publicly shown. There's an option in there somewhere to show it to the public. So I can see these, but I can't pull from them. But if I wanted to ask, I don't know who owns many of these, but like if someone knows, they can ask us if this was public, hey, can we get whatever out of there? So I'm in my container's still on the pad, submit large area equipment, and it's off the pad. So now we'll go over and build a shipping container and bring the BMATs over here. But yeah, I also wanted to show the tech materials. So the tech materials are at the bottom of your refinery: aluminum, copper, iron. I picked up some copper from that facility we were working on, so I'm just going to shift click it and it's going to queue it all up in my personal. It'll be really quick. We'll come back and pick it up after we've made our shipping container. All right, so we made our shipping container back at the refinery. Shipping container on the pad. Again, remember, everything has to be personal for you to do it this way. By right clicking, retrieve all crates, brings it into your shipping container. Same thing with the B mats. We're going to want to ship it up. Also going to grab out the tech mats that we cooked a little bit of copper, and I'll show you where that goes. The engineering center is what we're looking for, and it's actually right next to us to the northeast here. So I'm going to pull it out with the truck, the copper. So it's in the truck's inventory, but I always put it in my personal inventory before going into the engineering center, because sometimes I've noticed if you try to do it from a vehicle, the whatever these are called, the BP or the, here, we'll see what it's called in a sec. The prototype kit will not spawn at all. If you have this in your inventory and you click the option from your inventory, it'll bring it into your inventory. So the buses take copper, we have enough to make one. Then the weapons take aluminum, there's enough to make one of those in there. Oh no, that's the iron, so there's not enough for that. So we're in the vehicles. I got 420s party bus ready to go. So that we would take this prototype kit to the facilities, and there's usually a more secure or like a less obvious place where we put prototype kits for holding until we need them. So we have that prototype kit. We just leave the rest of the tech mats in there for the next person. There's really no point in taking them anywhere else. So now we'll take these B mats and the E mats we have created in here, and we'll put them into our regiment stockpile. Here's a little tip and trick for you guys. I always park like this with enough space to run in front, because if you get into the crane in any other position, people can block you. So like if a truck pulls right up here and is on like a weird angle, you can't get out here. People will be standing here AFK. If you go in from this side, you can't get out. So I always leave myself the space that I can get myself back out, or you'll get stuck in there, and people are stupid and they won't let you out. Dropping the shipping container on the pad. Again, we want to make sure we're in the regiment stockpile, and by right clicking any of the materials, we want to submit to the stockpile, the seaport. We're in the correct stockpile, so submit. So now there's the resources in there, so anyone can come in and quick pull this out. You know, it's a lot faster to come out when you click it from a reserve pile than when you try to pull something. I'm not even going to try, it'll take forever. So now that that's done, I want to put the shipping container back into the regiment stockpile. So again, pick the regiment stockpile, submit submit loading area item, equipment, it's gone. And now I would go back to collecting more scroop and continue this process until this regiment stockpile's EMATs are at 300. So we're going to get to 300 BMATs pretty quickly. So when that happens, all I do is create a new stockpile. That's not letting me do it. Okay. And it's just for me, because I'm helping with the MPF. Got MPF 2. And if you need to see the code to share with in the regiment stockpile view passcode, it comes up. You can also copy it to the clipboard and control V it in there, and you're good to go. So I'll probably fill 2 regiment stockpiles with BMATs before I've finished filling the one with EMATs. And then once this is full, I'll start the MPF queuing and running factory and stuff like that. So like I said, I'd be going back to Scrooping. So if you'll notice, there's 2 options for the vehicles and the structures. The second one is a crated option. So if you're in here and you see the option to pull something out, it'll actually pull out, you can see there at the bottom, a crate of 3 of these, or a crate of 3 vehicles, 5 for some of these. It's interesting. If you do that, it'll pull out a brown box that you'll have to pick up and put back away and make sure it's back in the regiment, or we'll lose it. So you're in here into the single, click your container that you're looking for, package it up, and put it back on your truck. Again, I'll do that until the stockpiles are full, and then move on to more other Logi tasks. That's probably it for this one. Thanks, everybody.